Pittsburgh Steelers have two contracts to worry about, one right now and one in the future, but both are making headlines, and both might be the biggest talking points of minicamp. What's going on, everybody? I'm Noah Strackbine. Thank you for jumping on to Steelers to Go, your daily to-go cup of Pittsburgh Steelers news and analysis. Find us on youtube.com/allsteelerstalk or subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. Today, we are talking about the Steelers headline of contracts. The team has two contracts to worry about, one right now and one in the future, and I can't tell what one is making a bigger headline, but I believe the one that will come is right now. But let's start with the contract that they have to worry about before training camp. Alex Highsmith spoke to the media yesterday and said that he will participate in minicamp. This isn't a hold-in. It's the first time in 3 years that the Pittsburgh Steelers are without a hold-in at minicamp. It's got to feel good to have a full roster out there outside of excused absences in TJ Watt and Ryan McCollum. But they don't have to worry about a contract right now. Highsmith did say that if a deal doesn't get done by training camp, which is set to start on July 26th, he doesn't know if he'll be out there. He doesn't know if he'll be practicing or if that's when the hold-in will start, and he's not focused on that yet because he's confident that a deal does get done before then. But I don't know if it's going to. The Steelers tend to push these things out into training camp. Last year was a bit of an anomaly with Minkah Fitzpatrick and Chris Boswell signing early, but in most years, in most circumstances, the Steelers wait until training camp. They let things play out. It is a slow and developing process, and nothing, and I mean nothing, is off the table. This team can be as slow as they humanly want to, and if they don't feel a deal is fair and in their favor, they're not ready to make it done. They're not ready to make a deal. They're not ready to pull the trigger, and they'll wait until the season and then say, we'll negotiate next year. And most times, the Steelers atmosphere, the family organization style that this franchise operates in, means that that player will still play. It doesn't happen all the time. Le'Veon Bell is the prime example, but it doesn't happen often. Alex Highsmith strikes you as a guy where it wouldn't happen again, where he wouldn't sit out a season or miss time, that he would want to play with his brothers on this team because he'd be confident that eventually a deal would get done, but then he's betting on himself. Do I think a deal gets done with Alex Highsmith? I do. I've said that this whole time. I don't think his price tag is outrageous. I think Alex Highsmith understands that he would make more money on the open market, but wants to stay in Pittsburgh. And I think that's how you have to operate as a player. When you have a guy like TJ Watt already on the team, when you have a guy like Minkah Fitzpatrick already on the team, Cam Hayward already on the team, these guys that received big contracts already, you have to have the understanding that, yeah, everybody deserves to get paid, but not everybody can get paid. And if he was to go elsewhere and hit the open market, he'd be looked at as somebody's TJ Watt. Would he be as talented as TJ Watt? Would he make the impact that TJ Watt has made? No. But somebody would view this guy as if they viewed Bud Dupree and say, we're going to pay him like he's TJ Watt. We're going to pay him a boatload of money that he deserves, that he rightfully deserves. But the Steelers already have that guy. They already have two of them. They're not ready to do it again. They can't afford to do it again. They understand what comes if they sign Alex Highsmith to this mega contract that they cannot afford, and they cannot take the risk to do so. I think it's going to be a fair and reasonable contract. I think it's going to be one that gives Alex Highsmith plenty of cash, plenty of future, plenty to invest in. He's got to feel real good about his pockets, but much like Deontay Johnson's deal, it will be one that is also team-friendly, that does not break the bank, and that does somewhat meet in the middle of this is where the market is. This is probably what you get paid in free agency. This is what we could afford. Let's go in the middle somewhere. Let's work it out. That's what I believe Alex Highsmith gets done, but I don't know if it starts with training camp. And at that point, you got to wonder if another hold-in starts. Do I believe that Alex Highsmith wouldn't miss any games this season? No. Do I believe that Alex Highsmith wants to miss practice or cause a stir or be in the headlines? No. I think Alex Highsmith wants to get a deal done and he wants to focus on football, but he understands that the NFL is a business and there is much more that goes into this on both sides and through the media perspective because fans want to know what's going on with this. And he gets all of it. And he understands that he's got to ride the roller coaster. We'll see if it happens by training camp. I hope that he's out there. I'd say right now it's a big question mark. The second is a contract that will come. It's Najee Harris's. And he spoke yesterday about what the current running back market looks like, the situation that guys like Dalvin Cook and Ezekiel Elliott and Leonard Fournette and Kareem Hunt find themselves in, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs included, and how he, chances are, is next. He's 28 years old by the time his contract's up. If the Steelers decide not to pick up his fifth-year option, it's an old running back in this league. Dalvin Cook's 27 years old and coming off 4 back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. He's the healthiest he's ever been. He's on top of his game. He's widely considered maybe the best running back in football. Not getting paid. He was getting paid, and then they realized his shelf life isn't going to hold up through the length of the contract, so you might as well get rid of him now. And Najee talked about durability and his stance and how he doesn't understand it, and I agree. I think there was a time in football where running backs didn't get paid the number that they get paid now, but nobody gets paid the number that they get paid now 10 years ago. That just wasn't the case, and it won't be the case 10 years from now either. But guys played. Adrian Peterson's 38 years old, and people are still talking about him coming back. Fred Jackson is the guy I always talk about because that guy, I remember deep into his 30s, he was still making people miss, and he was still running guys over, and he was still my favorite player in video games, and the guy that I rooted for the Buffalo Bills because of, he was that dude. Frank Gore, another one. Nobody does that anymore. In this league, they give up early. And I agree. I think that running backs take a beating, but at the same time, they're still capable runners. There's still capable players out there to make plays. And I think Zeke, he had 15 touchdowns last season. That's not a guy that you don't want on a roster. Is it a guy that's going to make explosive play after explosive play? No, but if you could find the end zone, that helps an offense. And not everybody could find the end zone. Najee Harris is in a very, very particular situation, and it is going to be rough. And I understand that he doesn't want it to be rough and that he wants to advocate against it, and everybody should. But we kind of all saw this coming. When he got drafted, we knew that when his rookie deal was up, he was going to be 28, 29 years old. And at that point, you'll be lucky to get a big deal for your second contract. Najee Harris knew that coming out of college. We all knew that coming out of college. He is in a very, very tight spot. But at the same time, I think it might work out for him in his favor because if the Pittsburgh Steelers love this guy and they love his characteristics and they love his work ethic and he could stay healthy, which I think is the biggest thing here, if he could stay healthy for the next 2 years, you're looking at Najee Harris and you're going, yeah, maybe you're not worth $11 million a year because you're 28, 29 years old, but you might be worth 7. You might be worth 6.5. We'll keep you around. We'll give you another contract, another 3-4 years, and I think that works out for both sides. Najee Harris isn't going to hit the open market and go make $1 billion. It's not going to happen. If Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs aren't getting paid, neither is Najee Harris. But in Pittsburgh, he might get enough. He might get a contract that he feels worthy of. He might get a contract that he believes is good enough to pay his bills and keep his NFL future alive and keep him on the field doing what he loves and making some money while he's doing it. If the options are $6.5 or $7 million a year or being a free agent, chances are you're going to take the 6.5 or the $7 million a year and you're going to have a role somewhere. And then there's the argument of Jaylen Warren, who I think is in a much worse spot, a better spot, but worse spot for the Steelers because he's going to price himself out of here. There's no way that in 2 years he is worth the money that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be willing to pay for a running back. Right now, he makes less than $1 million a year. In 2 years, when that contract is up, he's going to be looking at $6-7 million. He's going to be a hot topic. He's going to have low miles. He's going to have a bunch of experience. He's going to have some splash to him. He's an explosive runner. He's a big name. People love him. Somebody's going to take a chance on this guy. It won't be the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I think Najee's in a pretty good spot. Do I think it's the best spot? No. Do I think it's as bad as guys like Zeke and Leonard Fournette get it right now? No. I think he's going to be in a better spot than them. And honestly, it's good that he's talking about this now because I think that it brings the attention to the Pittsburgh Steelers that things do have to move. You know, Omar Khan can't be sitting around saying, we'll talk about this when the time comes. And I'm sure that's what he's saying, but I don't think he's saying that to himself, and I don't think he's saying that to Mike Tomlin or the front office. I think he understands that they have to watch Najee and allow him to hit a certain number of requirements, not just 1,000-yard seasons, but health-wise and body-wise and efficiency-wise. You have to be able to acknowledge where Najee Harris is in the next 2 years because you got to be ready on whether or not you're going to pay this guy. That's going to be a tough place. But I think that does start now for the front office and for Omar Khan and for Najee Harris. And I think bringing light to it now helps because I think the situation's only going to get worse in the next 2 years. And do I think it works out in Najee Harris's favor? No, but at the same time, I think it works out better than a lot of running backs or fans expect it to work out to because he's going to be pushing 28, pushing 29 years old. I don't think Najee's as in bad of a predicament as some of these guys. I think the fact that he plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers helps. They do have a tendency to say, see you later to guys that they cannot afford and that they believe they can replace. But I don't know if you replace Najee Harris. Not right now, not with the options that you have, because again, I believe that Jaylen Warren, he's going to have a price tag on him that the Steelers are not going to be willing to match. And that's great for Jaylen Warren. I think he deserves all of it if that comes. But I don't think Najee Harris is in a rough spot. I think the running back market as a whole is a disaster. But I think Najee, man, I think he might luck out when this is all said and done.